And so, Avi, let's start with NosFabrica, because I saw a pitch deck, and I mentioned to you that I was slowly starting to look at doing some early stage equity investing again, having not done any for over 5 years. And I have had another opportunity come along, which is in Satlantis, the business Alex Svetsky is building. And they're doing a crowdfund at the moment. I'm just doing due diligence now, and I'm very close to making an investment there. What blows my mind is this combination of AI, Bitcoin, and Nostr, and use cases that just didn't exist before, and entrepreneurs using tools that weren't around before, but could create huge value. And with NosFabrica, you mentioned bootstrapping. It's an interesting choice because in some ways, the more control you have, the better as the creators of that. But just a pain point of mine that resonates with that business is you turn up at a new practitioner. So my wife and I like going to acupuncture. We like going to chiropractic appointments. We like going to massage. We might even have, like Jason, energetic sessions with someone, or more kind of astrology type stuff. There's all sorts of different tools you can kind of leverage from other people, but they all start in the same way, which is, what's your health record? And you're just like, oh, what you mean? I've got to repeat the whole thing again. You know what I mean? It's like 37 years of life by this stage. And it's like, okay, and you've got all these tropes that you whip out, and it's like, it's almost self-reinforcing the health journey you've been on, and doesn't necessarily recognize, with like a nutritionist, for example, that wants to know about a test you did a year ago. It's like, which in my email somewhere. I can't remember. Was it that company NutriPath that did it, or someone else? So I love this idea of a user-centric digital experience in which the data is controlled by the user. Talk me through why Nostr enables that, and any early traction that you've seen with a specific use case that might help give that some flavor.
Yeah, I mean, the simple reason for why Nostr enables that is the game changer for Nostr is that the user identity exists at the protocol level and not at the application level, right? And in our traditional tech world, if you go to a hospital and you get some tests done, it goes into their system. There's an application in the US there, it's Epic or Cerner or, some of these big names, right? They create an account for the user. They own that identity. So as a user, yes, you can log in, but you're always asking for permission from someone because you don't control your identity for different pieces of data. The biggest thing, I think, for Nostr is it moved user identity from the application layer into the protocol layer. I mean, in theory, any user can derive their NPub and NSEC with pen and paper. I mean, it would take a very long time, but the math is there, right? It's a simple mathematical relationship, the Schnorr signatures that connect the NPub and the NSEC. Now, of course, it's easier to use a machine to spin up an NPub and NSEC. Once you do, it's yours. As long as you don't lose your NSEC, you control that. So you then get to decide with that NPub and NSEC, you can sign events, right? And you can choose which relays you broadcast those events to. It could be your own relay. You could, and now with Blossom, right, which is more geared towards storage of data files, you can choose which Blossom server you're sending your data blobs to. That's because you control your identity, you control what you sign. And so you apply that to a medical record, right? Yes, you have to solve the problem of going back into the past and getting everything into Nostr, but so let's just set that problem aside for a second. But if everything going forward, any medical data you have, it's an event that you sign, and you can choose which relay that gets relayed to, which Blossom server, if you're talking about like images or what have you, it gets stored on, and then you can selectively disclose to whoever you want. If you go to specialists and they say, show me your medical record, you don't have to show them the entire thing. You say, what do you specifically want to see? Okay, well, you pick that out, and obviously you'll have an application, a Nostr client that's, where you can easily search through, different aspects of your medical record and share what you need to share with them. So it boils down to controlling identity and controlling the ability to sign events as an individual that that makes Nostr a great fit for having your own health record. I actually don't see how you could do this outside of Nostr, to have that level of sovereignty over your own data. Because, I mean, let's say I create a non-Nostr app that says, hey, here, there's an app on your iPhone and you can download the data wherever you want. Well, there's an application that controls your identity, so they can rug pull you at any time.
It's so cool. And the fundamental idea of protocol layer identity, that's really the thing to hammer home here. It's like, this is a new thing that didn't exist before, that thankfully solves a very, very big problem. I guess to your point about the bootstrapping and running the bounty that you did, I'd love to know more details about how you did that. But it's really about attracting talent to Nostr to then deploy them in areas that you think might be interesting, but you don't know. So run us through how you guys kind of came to the conclusion that running a bounty was a good idea, and how did you attract some talent to have a crack at it?
Yeah, so look, we knew there were several apps that needed to be built, right, to show the true interoperability of Nostr. And I touched upon that a little earlier, right? We decided it didn't make sense for us to build every single one of those apps. And if this was a community effort, I think there'd be a lot more strength in that. So the way now, we could have, of course, done a call to action and said, hey, here are some 5 or 6 interesting ideas. Go and knock yourselves out. And maybe 1 or 2 people would have picked it up, or maybe not. Maybe we've just gone into the void of of the chronological feed of Nostr. So putting a bounty out was served a couple of purposes. One was it created real incentives for people to build something, right? Because there was a chance to win something, and the other was it skin in the game from our perspective, right? To show that we're actually serious about building this, about bootstrapping not just applications, but a developer community around these really cool use cases. So that was our thinking around that. And then we had our initial call. Initial 2 or 3 calls. We weren't prescriptive about it. We said, look, here are some ideas, but you guys pick whatever you want. And it doesn't have to be from this list. To pick something that you want. And we saw some really cool apps come out of it. I think the one that won was Runster. Now, it wasn't a health data app. It was more of a fitness app. It's a running tracker. But people are using it all over Nostr now.
Wow.
So Runster was one, but there are many others. There's Legacy Locker was a really cool one that came out. It's sort of the patient medical record sort of thing. Tim Boomer built this thing called SafeBox, which uses eCache to issue credentials and a lot more. It's almost like an everything app that he built, honestly. Med Scholar, which is like a decentralized PubMed, is being developed. And I'm not going to do justice if I'll stop there, but there were a few other of these apps that came out, and they were all great, right? So I think we saw some really cool stuff come out, and you could see them developing. It was really cool to see that, right? So someone would come in and present the idea on the third. We were having weekly meetings, right, for that 5 or 6 month period. They propose an idea. And then we'd go back and forth. Next week they'd come back and say, hey, actually, I took your feedback and I built XYZ feature. Here's what it looks like. And then you see the progression over the course of the next few weeks. Then a UI would come on one of the following weeks, and then there'd be some actual functionality, and then you show some sign in and some actual use cases. So it's really cool to see that progression. These calls, we had anywhere from 15 on the low end, 15 people to 30 people attending these calls on a weekly basis. Many of them every week would show up and do it.
Wow.
So I would say it was a resounding success what
Brilliant.
we were able to do. Yeah.